One of my personal favourite character journeys I enjoy, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do too, is a good old revenge story. Whether it be Vegeta in the Namek saga, Sasuke hunting down Itachi, Thorfinn in his younger years, or Lelouch fighting against his family, it's just something about the drive and willpower of these characters that tend to be so impactful. And one of the best examples of this that I've seen is none other than Kurapika. After the Kurta clan massacre by the hands of the Phantom Troop, Kurapika quite literally staked his own life to make sure their crimes were paid for and to return all the Scarlet Eyes that had been stolen. In order to fight against a group composed of some of the greatest and strongest criminals in the world, Kurapika needs great power, so we'll be breaking down his feats and abilities to determine just how strong this Avenger truly is. But before we delve into it though, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy content like this, and as always, your support is much appreciated. Kurapika is from the Kurta clan, who were famous for their Scarlet Eyes. They were also regarded as a strong clan even by the standards of the Phantom Troop, which consists of some of the strongest criminals in the world. Kurapika is the last surviving member, and he's similar to Gon and Killua as he's a Nen user with very high potential, so much so that Hisoka is able to identify said potential and intends to fight him in the future. Hisoka is one of the few that have a very good sense of others' potential, as it's essentially his life's calling to seek out good fights. As for Kurapika's Nen affinity, he is a conjurer. However, when he turns on his Scarlet Eyes, his aura increases and he becomes a specialist. This is why in the Togashi Expo, Kurapika is placed in the middle of Conjuration and Specialist. So with his Conjuration, Kurapika has conjured up chains which each have their own unique ability. Firstly, we have the Dowsing Chain, which is on Kurapika's ring finger. This chain can be used in combat such as to block bullets, however its main function is as a sort of lie detector and a radar to locate people. Some people get confused and think that Kurapika can only use his chains against the Phantom Troop, however that's only true for his middle finger chain called the Chain Jail. This chain forces any spider into a state of Zetsu, and it's even tough enough to restrain Uvagin, who is the physically strongest of the troop. Kurapika was able to conjure this strong chain through a Nen vow, which forces him to only use it against the spiders, otherwise he will die. Then there's the Judgment Chain, which is on his little finger, and it's equipped with the Stake of Retribution. Once Kurapika stabs his target with the stake, they are forced into a condition of following his orders or death. Kurapika also has a stake on his own heart due to the condition he placed with the Chain Gel. Since the Judgment Chain is a manipulation and emission technique, Kurapika can only use it when his Scarlet Eyes are turned on, which leads to Emperor Time. Emperor Time is activated when Kurapika turns on his Scarlet Eyes, and this state allows him to use all 6 Nen types at 100% efficiency. Kurapika uses the example of if he was a level 10 conjurer and a level 4 emitter used the same ability against him, the natural emitter would be more effective. However, when the Scarlet Eyes are turned on, he can use the same level 4 emissive ability to the same effectiveness as the natural level 4 emitter. The downside to Emperor Time is its costly trade-off, as Kurapika shortens his life by 1 hour for every second he is in this state. Next there's a chain on his thumb which is called the Holy Chain, and it allows Kurapika to heal his injuries. By placing the tip of the cross on the affected area, Kurapika's own self-healing is amplified and he heals the injured body. When using Emperor Time, his Holy Chain becomes more effective as his efficiency with enhancement reaches 100%. Lastly, the chain on his index finger is called the Steel Chain, and as the name suggests, it allows Kurapika to steal a Nen ability by extracting the aura of the stabbed target. The target is then left in a state similar to Zetsu, which means they will be vulnerable to Nen attacks. As of this recording, we don't know if there are any conditions to the Steel Chain aside from stabbing someone with the syringe, which makes his ability very overpowered. When using Emperor Time, Steel Chain becomes Stealth Dolphin, which gives Kurapika the ability to analyze a stolen ability, learn its name, capabilities, and conditions. Kurapika can then use the stolen ability for himself or transfer it to someone else. However, if he opts for the latter, he has to remain in Emperor Time, which is costly to Kurapika's life. However, an advantage of loaning someone a stolen ability is that Kurapika can steal another Nen ability with the Steel Chain. Now that Kurapika's Nen abilities have been covered, we can now move on to his general scaling. It goes without saying that Kurapika's major fight in the series is against Uvogin, who is touted as the physically strongest of the Phantom Troop. He's also said in the Hunter Guide to have exceptional combat ability even amongst the Phantom Troop, which portrays him as one of the stronger members. Uvogin was capable of tanking bullets, sniper shots, and even a bazooka used to destroy tanks with practically no damage. Before fighting Kurapika, Uvogin would fight the Shadow Beasts, who were the 10 strongest Nen users from the Mafia. Uvogin soloed 4 of them at the same time, being able to one-shot the Worm with a Big Bang Impact, which was likely only at 20% of his power. Uvogin then one-shot Leech just by biting his head, and Rabbit Dog was one-shot by Uvogin spitting out the skull of a leech like a bullet. Even his scream is destructive, as he one-shot Porcupine by screaming in his ear, and everyone including the Phantom Troop had to cover their ears despite being a good distance away from him. Outside of beating up relative fodder, Uvogin is said by Chrollo to be capable of beating just about anyone, and Uvogin believes that no one can withstand his Big Bang Impact at full power. Uvogin probably knows the capabilities of most of the Phantom Troop, and considering Chrollo acknowledges his strength, probably makes this boast true. It's even stated that the Big Bang Impact is a technique with the power comparable to that of a missile, emphasizing its destructive power. Chrollo was tough enough to block and endure Silver's punch and Zeno's emissive attack. Silver was capable of one-shotting Proof Amped Squadron leader Cheetu without even using his Nen ability, and the Big Bang Impact is likely even stronger than that. The Big Bang Impact is unlike the Janken that requires a wind-up time, as it's literally said to be a regular punch that's enhanced with Nen. I say that all to say that Kurapika being able to defeat someone of this caliber is extremely impressive, but it's important to cover how he managed to pull this off. The idea behind Kurapika's plan was to trick Uvogin into thinking he was a manipulator. Ever since Kurapika captured Uvogin, he made sure to keep his chains visible in order to throw him off until the end. Kurapika showcases his ability to restrain Uvo and increase the size and strength of the chains. Once their fight begins, Uvo notes that the chains are dangerous and they also hold an abnormal amount of Nen. He even figures that Kurapika was either a manipulator or a conjurer due to this abnormal amount of Nen, but he assumed the former. The only thing throwing him off was that Kurapika was able to seemingly block Uvo's punch and come out unscathed, which should be a feat only enhancers could do. We later find out that Kurapika had his Scarlet Eyes turned on from the beginning, meaning he could use all 6 Nen types at 100% efficiency. Nonetheless, Uvogin ramps things up and fights at 50% of his power. However, Kurapika was fast enough to react and blitz him multiple times. Kurapika's speed here is no joke, as he was practically toying with Uvogin this entire time and even tells him to stop wasting his time. Kurapika would then foreshadow his own victory before goading Uvo to use his full power. Despite Uvo using a smokescreen and using Ian to hide his aura, Kurapika was still able to react to him, which even Uvo praises, showing that Kurapika being on a different level of speed is consistent. Even though Kurapika had his arm shattered by the Big Bang Impact, the fight was already over, as Uvogin had already been wrapped in the chain gel. After being sent flying the first time, Kurapika returned to the fight and concealed his chains with Ian. However, from Uvogin's point of view, it seemed like he either dropped them or he couldn't differentiate the concealed chain gel from the remaining visible chains. So while Kurapika was toying with Uvogin, he used the concealed chain gel to tie up Uvo, which is why he never noticed and the fight was over before he knew it. By pretending to be a manipulator, Uvogin would only look out for the visible chains and would have no reason to use Gyo, as only one's presence and abilities forged with Nen can be concealed with Ian. Uvogin was then forced into a state of Zetsu, and since he was the physically strongest of the troop, Kurapika knew that he could trap any spider if the strongest one couldn't break free. This made Kurapika one of only 3 characters known to have fought and killed a member of the Phantom Troop, and he was deemed by Silver that the pay for assassinating one of the spiders wouldn't be worth it, which is the highest compliment he has ever given a target. Kurapika's plan was perfect, but a strategy like this would only work on members of the Phantom Troop that don't know his abilities. So what about Kurapika against the field? Would he still be as dominant as he was shown to be? One thing that we could be certain about is Kurapika having the ability to endure and heal from attacks capable of one-shotting squadron leader ants. Kurapika still has versatile abilities that work outside of the spiders, such as his steel chain that can remove his targets Nen from them and leave them vulnerable. He could also use the judgment chain to force someone to follow his orders with their life at stake if he manages to stab them with it. The only thing people may question is his speed, as I've seen Uvogin being deemed as slow by the fandom. However, Kurapika and Uvogin don't have any speed scaling outside of fighting one another, so the reasoning is flawed in of itself. Uvigin typically gets a bad rap because he lost to a new Nen user, however Kurapika became very proficient very quickly, so much so that God and Killua wanted Kurapika to teach them more about Nen because of how much he exceeded them. This is also supported by Kurapika's stats in the databook, as he's listed as a 4 out of 5 in the Nen category, which is the same level as many experienced hunters like Kite, Morel, and even the likes of Crollo. The way I interpret these stats are more so like tiers rather than strict power levels, so even if Kurapika isn't on the same caliber of a Nen user as Crollo, he's just on the lower end of the level 4 Nen tier. It could also be argued that Kurapika is on the caliber of the Zodiacs, which comprise of some of the strongest hunters in the association, handpicked by the former chairman. Despite Kurapika only becoming a Zodiac due to Leorio's recommendation, Mizai Storm did notice that he had seen his own share of carnage. Nen users are also able to read each other's power based on their aura, so if Kurapika wasn't up to par for the Dark Continent mission, then the request would likely have been denied. Mizai Storm would have also got a good read on Kurapika while he had his scarlet eyes turned on, which increases his aura. That being said, the Zodiacs in general are portrayed to all at least be stronger than the likes of Morel and Nov, with Morel being an experienced hunter capable of defeating a leader class ant with his wits and abilities. We also see the likes of Rusty Phaeton keeping up with Zarzan's speed, and Finks and Bolonanov who are watching the fight were confident they could defeat her. Uvigin being one of the stronger troop members would suggest he could also fight at this level of speed, so Kurapika being able to toy with him in terms of speed just goes to show he'd be a problem for a lot of high tier Nen users. Kurapika is also very intelligent, being able to deduce there must have been an informant among the Zodiacs working for Beyond with little information. All the Zodiacs were shocked that Kurapika would ask how many allies Beyond would have within the Hunter Association, with Kanzai outright showing he didn't connect the dots. The only ones that came to the same conclusion as Kurapika were Chido, who is the current chairman of the Hunter Association, and Mizai Storm, who is a criminal hunter, and detective work is literally his job. Although Kurapika usually keeps a level head and is intelligent, he tends to lose himself at the thought of the spiders, which is definitely a mental hurdle he needs to overcome. All in all, Kurapika is a very skilled hunter across the board. He's got a versatile Nen ability, great intelligence, and very high potential. Currently, Kurapika is protecting the 14th Prince and Queen Oito on the Black Whale on his way to the Dark Continent. He's still not been made aware of the presence of the Phantom Troop, and the 4th Prince Sarainik has been quickly progressing into a monstrous Nen user. We could see a lot more from Kurapika once he interacts with Sarainik and Crollo, but this is all we have for now. So if you enjoyed, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. I've been the one and only HxH, and until next time.